Welcome to Tape Deck. Gonna have a creative conversation. Hi, welcome to Tape Deck. This is a podcast where I, artist, writer Declan, have a creative conversation, namely with a past or present collaborator in comics. My collaborator this episode is Eric Zawadzki. Eric is a professional comic book artist, most well known for working on the House of L trilogy for DC Comics, ASSORTED CRISIS EVENTS for Image Comics, and Heart Attack for Skybound Image, which has been adapted to a TV show in Japan. He's also received critical acclaim for his work on the DREGS and ETERNAL from Black Mass Studios. Zawadzki lives in Calgary with his wife and 2 hairless cats. He's also a host of INKxSCRIBE, a show featuring 3 artists discussing the art and storytelling of comic books. Eric, welcome to Tape Deck.
Happy to be here.
How's it going,
man? Good.
Thanks for coming on board, man. I think we were talking beforehand about how we've known each other a long time, but I think we've only talked a little bit in person.
Actually, I don't think you remember the first time we met. That's the funny thing about comics.
Because I have a story with that, because once you came to my table and I said, "Oh, nice to meet you," and you told me, "Oh, we've met before," and inside I thought, "Uh-oh," and I said, "I hope I was nice to you," and you said, "Oh, no, you were very nice. You even bought me a drink, and you didn't even know me." And my inside voice was like, "Oh, thank God I wasn't a dickhead."
Well, I mean, it's not like you ever get, not to put you on the spot, but I don't think you're just such a mensch. I feel like I'd be shocked to hear that anybody had bad experience with you.
I know. Ask around, and I'm sure it's happened.
The thing is, I've had, this was 10 years ago when you bought me that drink in the bar and everything, and I've had bad experiences with other creators. So it's like not uncommon for like, a nobody up and coming creator to have bad experiences with more well known creators. But yeah, no, my experience with you.
Feel free to share those negative stories.
Let's turn this into a gripe session.
I'll tell the story because it's not a bad story, but I met Sean Phillips when I was starting out, and he had done a cover for like a small press book that I had done. It wasn't like a big published thing or anything. And it was San Diego Comic Con. It was like 15 years ago probably, and I just said like, "Oh, thanks very much for doing that cover," and he just kind of looked at me and said, "Okay."
No!
I felt like I died inside, but I'd asked around, and like I'd heard that he's just a little quiet, and if you talk to him a little, like if he gets to know you a little, he's perfectly nice, and that was 100% true. I'd met him a couple more times, and he's nothing but friendly. But I can as well. That was San Diego, and like I think actually he had some kind of medical emergency at that show. So from one perspective, you're thinking like, "Oh man, Jesus." That was harsh, but like you've no idea what somebody's going through at the same time. I'm just glad.
And I have a genuine worry about that, because I have made it an explicit goal to, like, I've been treated very well, like by you, for example, before you knew me, and I've been treated very poorly by other creators, and so I made it an explicit goal to always treat everybody well, but at the same time, I'm also a very awkward person sometimes, and I'm prone to putting my foot in my mouth. So, there might be the occasional time where
I find myself, I get a bit overloaded sometimes at shows, because I can chat away, obviously, doing it right now. Sometimes the problem is getting me to shut the hell up, but I think I have a hard time maybe concentrating on one thing and maybe talking to somebody, or there's just kind of too much coming my way and I'm not able to like direct the energy in a certain place. So I worry sometimes I might come across as ignoring somebody when I'm really just trying to like process what's around me.
Yeah, conventions are. I mean, it's not easy. It's there's just so many minefields.
Do you do many shows now? Because
I've done once since the pandemic, but before that I did like a couple of shows, but for a while there I was just attending. When I was my early 20s, I went to ECC Emerald City Comic Con in Seattle like every year for like 5 or 6 years because I lived in Vancouver and it was a 5-hour drive. So yeah, I've attended more conventions than I've tabled at, but I should probably fix that and start going to more shows because
Well,
I feel like
now
I
with the
don't
new book, you
know
know.
many people. Sometimes I see creators online and it just seems like everybody knows each other and I don't know anybody. And that's because of convention, right?
Yeah, but also everyone pretends they know each other online and would stab each other in the back with absolutely no problems at all. Um, like I've gotten a little bit more cynical about the quote unquote community because I found that like it was definitely all a chatter a few years ago, um, and it's for me anyway. It's quite. I've kind of like decided to concentrate on the work more than like being buddies online. I think especially with things like COVID happening, and a lot of people reset their lives a lot. So I don't know. I think dynamics have changed a lot since when, say, you were kind of coming into the industry.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I can see that, and I think that is the most important part is to focus on the work because I do see people who go to 3, 4, 5 conventions a year, and I'm just baffled like how comics are all consuming. How do you get pages done?
Yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah.
going
No, I
to a
think I
convention
can.
will take an entire week out of your schedule.
Yeah, because it's not the weekend; it's preparing ahead of it, and then the travel ahead of it, and then being there, and then coming back after it, and then recovering. And yeah, it's at least half a week. Um, and also a lot of people work really hard at shows. I've no like I don't go to shows to work. I go to shows to like see people and hang out, and I'll do a little bit of work. Like I'll do what's necessary for the show or like a few head sketches, whatever. But I don't want to sell the book. But once the show is over, like I'm sure you might know a lot of people will go back to the hotels and do commissions and stuff.
Oh,
Fuck
I
that!
couldn't
Like,
do that.
like
Yeah.
I didn't travel across the continent just to do some more work. Um, shows. I think shows have always been very social for me, and they were also very creatively engaging because I asked JP Leon once, like, why do you always draw those big gloves? Things like that. Like you'd always want to know. But there's less of that now. I think, just because once you become professional, I guess you're just talking more like life stuff. Like how's the wife, how's the house. And I think the reason why I started doing this show is because I'd work with so many people and realize like I have no idea what they were thinking about the thing we were. I'd find out reading interviews with writers what they thought of my stuff. I'm like, why haven't we talked about this? So it's kind of why I wanted to do this in the context of it being people who I've worked with, because you don't really talk about like what you were thinking of or what decisions you made for what reason. And I used to get so much excitement and energy out of doing that at shows. So, and especially because after COVID and everything, there's just less. I feel like there's less opportunities to do that unless you're actively trying. But no, I've managed to make this about me again. Sorry. uh, but so,
No.
what is the last show you did do then?
Oh, just a local show. I live in Calgary, so I did a Calgary show last April. Which I
Okay.
mean, oh no, did I call Dennis a nobody?
Look, if you didn't do it, I was going to do it. All right. Well, actually, actually, I did want to bring up Dennis at some stage because the reason we're talking is because you have a new book out with Dennis, but also we worked together on a book called Time Before Time. But originally, we were developing the story together as a pitch, and it was Dennis who recommended you to me, if I recall. Anyway, I think.
Well,
Um,
the first time you remember meeting me, I guess, was me walking around with Dennis and Dennis introducing us,
Oh, okay, right,
basically.
right, right. Yeah, because remember, me and Rory were looking, we were thinking of something. I think actually we were in the Lansdowne pub, if I recall right. It was me, Rory, and Dennis, and he suggested you, and I was thinking, would he be available? Because there's always the weird thing of like, this guy's really good, so he's clearly busy, and then there's somebody on the other end like who has absolutely nothing going. You don't know, and they'd love someone to email you, but you're like, no, they wouldn't be interested. But I think it was because Dennis mentioned you, I reached out, and ultimately you couldn't do it because you got like a proper big job offered to you for that point. That kept you busy for 3 years, didn't it?
Yeah, DC tied me up for it was almost 3 years, and very conveniently during the pandemic. It started
Yeah,
before the
nice.
pandemic, and there was no pencils down for me because it was a YA book series. So, and those are created so far in advance that I was very, very fortunate for that. Which unfortunately I did pitch pages for Time Before Time, and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
I felt really bad because it just wasn't going to work out. It's so crazy looking at these because that is not Tatsuo, or actually his name was different in this, I think.
Was it? It might have
Yeah,
been. I mean,
actually,
because we.
you know what,
Mhm.
this is so long ago. We're going back like what, 5 years ago, 6 years ago.
Yeah,
So I don't know. I can't trust my memory, but I do think it was my idea to make the character Asian.
I think you're right. Actually, yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Actually, I think you're right. My memory's a little spotty too, but yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, we carried that over. So basically,
Even though
we were going.
can you tell he's Asian here? Like, I mean, now I'm criticizing my own
Let's
work, which I'm told
let's
I'm not supposed to do. But
crap on. Let's just crap on your stuff here. No, but I remember. Uh, actually, I was not annoyed. What was the word I'm looking for? Ultimately, you couldn't do it because we were going to pitch this, and then you got the job from DC Comics, and um, I remember you were very gracious because you could have said, "Well, I did all this work, so." I don't feel comfortable with you getting a new artist. You were really, really gracious and said, like, no, like, by all means, if you need to bring somebody else on, do that. So which was great. But I specifically didn't tell Joe Palmer, who ended up working on the book with us. Um, I deliberately didn't tell him that somebody else was involved because I didn't want him to feel like he was,
second pick.
considered. Yeah, but then I think you found out was did you know him and told him, or I can't remember. So somehow he
Oh
found
no,
out
I didn't
anyway.
know him. No.
Okay, I wasn't sure. He found out
But it's
anyway.
funny how comics work that way because I was on Heart Attack years later, and I was like third pick or something. But
Yeah,
it
I
just
mean,
is what it is.
yeah, you never know. I think I was first picked for Moon Knight because the Warren specifically had asked for me, but I think I know on Deadpool I wasn't. And I mean, ultimately, the person who does the book is like I've been considered for books that I said no to, and I see them happening. Like, but it doesn't matter. Whoever did the book is the person who did the book. So all this work you did was useless. Well, no, I mean, look, I loved your work, and I really wanted to work with you, but it was you did such lovely. Like, I think what you and Joe were great at is you guys really, your backgrounds are so world building, which does so much. It lightens so much work on the writing side of things because what you could do in an image sells so much of whatever like somebody could write down. But no, I mean, I was bummed out when you said when you couldn't do it, but like because yeah, I can see there's so much great design work on the pods and like the character work. Yeah, like it all. I was really.
Well, and it's really interesting because I think the first cover you did is based off these pitch pages.
Yeah, well, I did a. It ultimately didn't go into the. Did I use it for the comic at all? I think no.
Well,
I
I
think I
just
used it for the
remember
Kickstarter.
I think there's a car coming up that was sort of used on the
Well,
very first cover.
I love how I'm pointing at the screen and there's nobody in here. In panel 2, 3, you can see the pod that you designed. I drew that as a potential cover. It was in the pitch for sure. Because I do like even like stuff like doing Thundercats or whatnot. I like feeding off whoever's drawing the book. If I'm doing the cover, it feels a little bit more cohesive that way. Um, but no,
Oh, I
this was
loved it. It's always such an honor to see, I don't know, like a great artist like take take the baton or whatever.
and also me. But no, as disappointing as was you couldn't do it. Like, I mean, I was again. I remember we talked about it, and I was like, "Look, man, you can't turn down a DC book." And was it even? It wasn't supposed to be 3 years originally. It was not supposed to be one book, and then it turned into three.
It was so weird. They told me, they asked me, do you want to do House of L? And then there was a long process to get there, but then I say yes, and then finally get the script and get to the end of the script, and there's a cliffhanger, and
Right.
I'm just like, nobody told me, like, and I emailed the editor going, am I doing the second book? And they're like, oh, this is a trilogy. Like, it is funny the information that's accidentally left out sometimes.
It doesn't matter. You're just the artist, so who cares what you're planning? It's only going to take up like another year of your life. No, actually, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I remember we waited. Actually, you got the book, and we said we'll wait, and then you found out it was going to be 3 books, and that's when you said, like,
Yeah, like I can't in
it.
good conscience like keep you from this for like 2 years. It's funny looking at these pages because something I love about Joe Palmer's work is like he created a really iconic looking main character, and I did not, which is something I learned from this and adapted into my own work. So it was very valuable for me that I got replaced and got to see like somebody do something completely different.
Well, and also that's why I didn't want Joe, like we never showed Joe these. I didn't tell Joe there was anybody considered beforehand because I wanted him to be able to just come to the concept and just, do his own thing.
Not have anything like blocking.
Yeah, because whether
him.
or not you'd mean to, like you're going to have this stuff in your head. Like if let's say I was going to come on board this and I said, oh, here's what we had beforehand. Even if you might design the exact same thing, but unless you know what's unless you can do it blind, you have no idea if you're just kind of bouncing off somebody else's thing, and especially if it's a creative
things you can accidentally do,
without meaning to, and then I think that then that kind of gets you to second guess yourself, and especially if it's creator owned and you're designing everything, I wouldn't want someone to feel like they were just a work for hire like artist on a job on something that's creator owned,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because I made some. These memories are suddenly coming back. Like that double page spread earlier, that was only supposed to be 1 page. And I remember like deciding I have this image in my head of it being a double page spread. And I think there was a little bit of, that was like a controversial choice because it was supposed to only be 20 pages or 22 pages, or I don't remember how, but I'm sitting here like adding pages, which, because I should say like you did pay me for these, and so it's pretty much me saying like, oh, I just added some more money onto the paycheck.
I don't know if you're. I have a feeling like your relationship with Dennis is like pretty. There's a flow between you two, but I think Rory wanted more pages, but like having done a creator-owned book with Injection, I also saw the merit of like keeping things tight. More pages means more budget, means more page counts. The books are more expensive, so I'm quite. I like to kind of keep a format, but in the end, I think we ended up doing 30 pages for issue 1, just because the amount of world building needed, like it's just 20 isn't enough. I'm guessing the same with Assorted Crisis Events, because it's like 40 pages. Is it issue 1?
Oh yeah, and actually every issue is so the first issue is 40 pages, and then every issue averages around 30 pages.
Well, I think you're insane for doing that, because it's going to be so. But like that's my practical brain going, it's going to cost this much in the sales, blah blah blah. But ultimately, like say when you asked to make this a double page spread, like it's a much cooler image, and like okay,
and that goes to your point of taking ownership of this isn't just a gig. This is me, like.
Exactly, yeah. Like even if I disagreed with it, I might go like, well, just let him like do his thing. But I mean, it was cooler, and actually, we ended up doing the same thing in issue 1. I think we did do a double page spread. And just out of interest, we had the title "Your Future Yesterday," but I remember when we pitched it to Image with Joe, he was saying that there's like 2 or 3 Image books coming out with the word "future" in it. So could we change the title? So we did, to Time Before Time. And I never saw any of those books come out. There's no books came out with the word future. Son of a...
Actually, what's funny is that when my memories are coming back to me again. But when I was brought on, there was a different title. I don't remember what it was, but I do remember explicitly saying, I don't like this title. And like trying not to offend, but and then I did like this title, Your Future Yesterday, but I think you went through like 3 or 4 different titles.
I don't remember any before this one, but again, we probably came to this because you didn't like. Again, if someone doesn't So, like, I'm fairly open. I wouldn't unless something really bugs me, I wouldn't push against it. So if somebody does push against something, like I'll hear them out. And titles are like I still like that title. I don't like stuff with time in it generally. Like that's I didn't want to lean into time, uh, but yeah, no, it's a tricky one. Even actually, I remember having a big talk with Dennis about a title for one of his books. I think I told him I hated it, and I doesn't know if it made it
Was it
any
one of
better or
the
not.
was it one of the titles that went to print? Like, because
No,
all
no,
his
he did.
books, like he goes through like several, like Assorted Crisis Events was not the first title,
Yeah,
but
no, it was.
it just sort of hit like lightning one day, and that's definitely 100% it.
I remember he had a book, and I told him I didn't like the title, and I suggested Chaos Agents, and I think he was going to do it, but there was another book that had the same. Like again, this happens all the time. There's already a book that had that title or something. It's weird the amount of stuff I've completely forgotten in my life. Yet little tiny little things like that will stick in stick in your brain. But sure. Let me take a step back there and like ask like what did get you into comics and what kind of pushed you to go to a con? Like how did you get your first work? Was it conventions or how did you meet Dennis even?
Oh,
That's
all those
three.
questions have different answers.
I'll start at the beginning
I
anyway.
well, I met Dennis at when I tabled at New York Comic Con, and we just sort of hit it off right away. You meet a lot of creators at these shows, but yeah, for some reason, it's funny you described that as you get older, you go to these conventions and you don't talk about craft, but with Dennis and I, we just talked nothing but craft. I think he was at my table. We had a long conversation, and then I was, he lives in New York, and I think that Sunday I had an extra day or something, and I was like, can we go out to dinner or something? And then we just like chatted, all night about craft and stuff. And for me, it almost felt inevitable that we would eventually work together, even though it took like another 5 or 6 years. But yeah, we chat every day, especially like when you're in a creator-owned situation, you're going into business with somebody. So a lot of
Yeah.
conversations now are business related, but also just excitedly talking about the craft of comics. And yeah, we want the same thing out of comics. Like for like earlier, you mentioned the how insane it is to have 30 pages for an issue, which I agree with. It doesn't make sense on a lot of levels, but I guess for us, there's a lot that goes into that, and it's about giving like a hearty meal every issue, and it's also about if your book is sitting beside like a spider book or a super book or a bat book or whatever, you have to actively be different in a lot of ways, and yeah, one of those is you're just going to get a bigger meal out of one issue of Assorted Crisis Events than you would out of anything else. And there is a sort of like idea that we're going with, that like the work is the most important aspect, and like business decisions are almost secondary, which might end up killing the book. But you in the end, it's all about the work.
Well, I
But
mean, I think it's reasonable to have both conversations, but the reason why one might take over the other, like it's tough. Like I like with Old Dog, um, like you don't watch a film and wonder how much it made, like it cost to make it, you know. I also don't watch a film and necessarily count how many minutes it was, like the experience of or like how many pages a book is or whatever, like I remember I read the first two issues of Assorted Crisis Events, and I went back to check how many pages there were because I wasn't sure, and I think that's a really good sign of it didn't feel like it was too long and it didn't feel like it was too short, and I think it is very very meaty. Like it's dense without becoming work. I know like sometimes I feel a lot people put a lot into a page, and I just prefer if it was 3 panels. Like sometimes I just think it can be too packed and it becomes laborious to read. But
Or just too much flowery text.
yeah,
I guess.
like there's a lot of text in the book, and there's a lot of information in your art. But I feel, I don't know, it gels really nicely. Again, I never felt like there was too much, or and also there's a lot of big weird ideas and big weird concepts. And as I was reading it, I just kept thinking, like, stuff like this tends to lose me, but it didn't. And I don't know if it's like, Dennis fine tuned in the writing, or I'd say a lot of it is your art too. But there's a lot of, I don't know, I find there's a lot of writers who are so in love with writing the thing that it becomes this, like, you know, um, uh, like self-indulgent masturbatory thing with the artist to somehow put this together. But I didn't get that from this. Like, I was just impressed with how much was in the book without me feeling like, oh God, I got to go through. I don't know if you had that experience, like, because I remember, I think you even, when we worked together, I think you might have added panels here and there, or you definitely like to not like change the script, but like find moments to kind of enhance. Would that be fair?
Yeah, no, I love playing around with pacing. That's part of a lot of the fun for me, is the figuring out the storytelling and playing with timing. And I think that's why Dennis thought I was probably the most ideal choice for this book when he was developing it, because of that. I actually give myself too much work often. There's often present Eric cursing past Eric, but yeah, it's all for the work, I guess. It's all to yeah. I also like on those pitch pages, that was my lettering, and that was only temp
That's
lettering.
Right.
And like, I guess I just get heavily invested in the final product, and I want to be able to see how it reads. And like, I will add temp lettering and then read a rough version like 3 or 4 times, and then come up with 100 different fixes. Like, maybe I need to change the pacing in this moment, or I definitely need to add a panel in that moment, or this dialogue needs to be shifted over. And sometimes I'll even add a page for assorted crisis events. But yeah, I'll read the rough 100 times, and then I'll tighten up the pencils, and then read that 100 times, and then make some adjustments, and then start inking. And then I'll, before it's even been lettered or colored, I will read that comic. I will have read the comic about 150, 200, 300 times.
Does that not become laborious for you though? Like, because I used to do like bigger layouts. At the moment I'll do them like this size, and then I'll light box them, build them up, and draw from there. But there was a time where I was doing more detailed ones, and then I would blow them up and I would light box them, and it felt like I was penciling it twice. And that really started to kind of bog me down and get me really frustrated. Whereas I much prefer now having things a little bit looser, and back a step. But you really do, like, flesh out isn't even the word. You kind of process. You add more levels of process to it, which to me would like murder me. But you seem to just like, even there was an issue of sort of crisis events that wasn't colored yet, and I could saw that like you selected out the paint on a road. You hit, like, it's a road. There's 2 stripes. Clearly, there's road mark, but you isolated them in yellow, and you isolated like blood. Like, you don't need to do that. I'm sure the colorist, Jordy's going to be able to figure that out. But you take the time to, develop it, and like, is that because you feel like you need to go all the way with that, or yeah, I'm wondering what the compulsion is, and clearly you need to do it, but you don't really need to do it.
And that is true. I guess it comes down to that I have a very specific vision in my head, and I think I might have a high pain threshold. So, but also there's like levels of like to have the final product not be up to snuff is more painful than adding all that work, I guess, if that makes sense. But at the same time, that that quality you described in me is also a detriment, because I mean, I was looking at those older pages, and it was actually pretty painful to see all that stuff. A lot of that stuff is overworked, and yeah, there's not enough negative space in a lot of that, a lot of those pages you just showed off, and a lot of that comes from, I guess, getting lost in a Zen-like state where I'm just like producing a lot of detail, or just getting lost in the process. But
yeah, I'm just showing this was I think this is the lettered by Haas, but this was issue 15, sorry. So this is what you sent us. You didn't send us inks. You sent us inks, but like the characters.
Oh, yeah. That's the only time I've ever done that.
Oh, really?
It took way too long. I've seen some creators post online, like working for the big two, they isolate the backgrounds and stuff, and sometimes I do get a little frustrated when I guess I'm showcasing my neuroses, I guess, but I do get a little frustrated by like when the flatting isn't perfect, when the flatting hasn't, like, maybe you'll have some hairs sticking out, and then that becomes part of the background in the flatting process. And so for this one issue, I decided to try out like separating the foreground figures in the background, which created way too much work because I didn't do it on the next issue. But also, I when I did this issue, I was coming off of 2.5 years of House of L, where there was no time for anything. It was just hand in 5 pages a week. I was handing in 5 pages a week essentially for like 2.5 years, which is not my ideal process because I do like to get lost in the details. And so this was when you asked me to do this, I said I will do it, but I want 6 weeks per issue.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Because I want to like let loose for once. And
6 weeks for a 22-page, like, that's not unreasonable. Like, people will be doing the same. They have the same amount of time to do less developed work, say.
I don't talk to enough creators. I don't know how common that is. It
depends. Like I get 6, but like,
oh, you do?
Well, I'm not the best at keeping track. I might get 8 depending on what it is, but I have to factor in like I might need time to do scripts. It doesn't take me 8 weeks to do it. I'm just like balanced with other stuff. But actually, even with Mystique, I was doing it in 4 weeks, 5 weeks maybe. But Marvel scheduled me a bit of time so I could, like, they didn't say how long will it take you to draw it. They said how long do you need. So I had to kind of figure that out. But even in my early days of Marvel, it was about, I think, 6. I was told 6 weeks. If it's taking longer than 6 weeks, then there's a problem. But then again, I know people who are just given 3 weeks. So it depends on what situation you're in or what state the book is in. But we knew that this arc was going to be 2 different stories, a 2-page story and a 3-page story. And I think I might have even asked what you prefer, but this one gave you the option of having more time. So, and if that's what you want, then, I mean, I can imagine how tough it was doing like 3 graphic novels all in one go. I was hoping this would feel like a breath of fresh air.
Oh, it definitely was. Yeah.
But like, let's see here, you've done sound effects and you've selected the blood. Now, like, I do that in layouts more than I need to, but I'm generally coloring it too. So, like, I'm thinking things out in the layouts that'll save me time in the final pitch. But like, I mean, where do you? I guess you have a different level of like, economy and productivity. Like I know where to kind of like simplify things in order to kind of turn things around, but it seems like it's more important for you to just get everything that you want in there.
Yeah, part of it is the detailing is the fun, but I also like, I guess I do have an obsessive quality where like the liquid shouldn't have a line around it so that it feels more liquidy. For me personally, even though sometimes I do question that because I see other people's work where there's a line around the liquid, and I love the aesthetic. So sometimes I question, does it need to be that way? And maybe I'm just lost in routine as well. And
but it's quite specific, because I've seen the first issue, and I don't know how specifically you directed Geordie, but I've worked with her in the past. I know she's great with outside the box ideas. So I get the sense you had specifics in mind, but otherwise you would have been quite open for her to make. There's a lot of stuff you've lots of detail, but there's a character colored, and all the backgrounds is in a color hold. I don't know if that was your idea or not. Or I'll show a little. I don't want to show too much, but
yeah, actually,
say there's the last panel. This effect is used a lot in the issue, but all the it's the whole background of that building isn't all painted in detail. It's just a color with a color hold, which pushes those foreground elements into focus, which is great. But I don't know how much of that was your idea or.
Oh yeah, that wasn't my idea at all. That was this was her second version of this page. The first issue is 40 pages, and it took her a while to find the style of the issue, and I guess somewhere towards the middle she found the style which was what you're describing here. And then went back and changed this. But no, not my idea at all, and I love it. And I think me and Dennis, it took us a little bit getting used to it, because we fell in love with the original version. But I guess everybody on the team has a stake in this book, and it is kind of a wild concept, and we want everybody to have the freedom to reinvent themselves every issue. I don't think the second issue is going to be stylized this way. I changed my storytelling style with every issue, and I believe she's going to be changing her storytelling style as well. And yeah, even if there are some slight doubts with us, we just want to give her complete freedom. Same thing with Haas. We want him to have.
Why hire people like that, or not just hire, but make something original with someone like that, and not take their ideas? I had the same thing with when I was working with Geordie. She kind of throws something I wasn't expecting on stuff, and my first instinct is inside go, that's not what I wanted. But you kind of take a step back and realize, actually, this is more interesting than what was in my head. Just because I had a specific idea doesn't mean that that's the way to do it. And you've kind of, if you want a good colorist, there's loads of good colorists out there. But if you're going to ask Jordi Belair to do something, then why let good ideas die on the vine? It doesn't necessarily mean it's the one to do, but I think as good as she is as a colorist, her ideas are kind of what makes her not better than anybody else, but makes her. And if you're not going to take advantage of it, then
and some of the decisions she has made are very bold, and sometimes bold is scary. But then you step back,
and sometimes bold is not what you wanted there, so it's fine. But just shooting it all down would be, and same with Haas. Haas makes choices that I don't always agree with, as in how he'll kind of incorporate the lettering into the artwork. And when we worked on Time Before Time, I'd say I agreed with him maybe 80% of the time, but there'd be 20% where I wouldn't. But if I wasn't willing to take those ideas on board, then I should ask somebody else. You know what I mean? Who's not going to throw that stuff out there.
Yeah, you should know what you're getting into when you get Haas lettering, because every book he does these fun little tricks, and I think the books he letters are the most fun to look at. His lettering is just so fun for me, so bouncy. Whereas I think there's an old rule with lettering where you should be invisible. They say that the best lettering is lettering you didn't even realize, you didn't even notice there was lettering. But with Haas's work, you notice his lettering, and again, bold, and I love it.
I'm 50-50 on that. I think I'd agree with it, but it's still a visual media. you know what, I think it's a case by case, you know, like there's stuff that does, like, I think is really cool. I wouldn't have wanted on my stuff. I think it's really cool on other people's stuff, you know. But like, again, an idea, if you're coming with an idea, then like you can always talk about it. I'd much prefer somebody who's thinking about the work than somebody who's just, you know, disengaged and hands it out. But
someone who's just taking a gig, because that's always my worry, is that you get a team together, and you know the writer's passionate, and me as the artist, I'm super passionate, and then maybe you hire a colorist who's like, well, I need a paycheck. So that was always my worry, is that, you know,
there's another problem with creator-owned stuff too. It's like it's like you know, you might have a project and you're going to a colorist, you know, and it's like, you know, we really need you to care about this, but the colorist might have like 5 other books. It's like, I don't have time to care about, you know. So it's it's a delicate balance between the two. But I definitely think you want somebody, like with creator-owned especially, somebody who feels involved, because, you know, again, if you're going to ask somebody like Jordy, you want you know, you want that special spark that makes them, not just, I mean, arguably the name on the book, I think, does a lot. Like, you know, if you have her name on a book, that's going to stand out. So from a pure brand, from a very cynical branding point of view, I think it looks good. But like, again, why ask that person unless they're going to like bring something that's going to make your book different? And the whole reason I brought it up, sorry, was to say that like you clearly have very specific things you're going for, which I appreciate, but you're also open enough to let somebody else kind of like play around with it, and you're able to stamp down that voice, which I understand of like, oh, not my precious pages, you know.
And I have worked with colorists in the past where I was not so into it. So the thing with Jordy, at least here, is that like, even if there's a decision that I'm initially hesitant of, it's still aesthetically pleasing. It's still a color palette that I find pleasing, and it still overall looks good, despite any initial worries. I know it looks good. I can't say about like every time I've worked with a colorist.
But I also think
sometimes I've worked with colorists, and it's taken me a little bit longer to fall in love with it, and then I eventually do fall in love with it, and sometimes I never like it. I don't know.
Yeah, like I just did Mystique with Matt Hollingsworth, and I've loved Matt's work since I was a kid. Like he was like my favorite colorist growing up.
He was on Preacher, right?
Yeah, he was on Preacher. He was on Daredevil back when I was reading it. Like a total hero of mine. One of the first American creators I ever met too. And I've known him for years, but we only finally worked together on a book this year. And you know, it was tough, like, because I worked with Jordy for years and years, and she had a really good sense of what I liked, and then but also kind of inform, you know, more of an interesting color on my end. I used to just kind of just think in black and white and hand it over, like, whatever, you know, colors will do their thing. So it was interesting to work with Matt, and like he probably did stuff that like I would, like he did some like effect work which I wouldn't like at all, but he's so good at it. You know, I just kind of let go and go, no, you know, it's not what I would have done, but you know, I think you have to let go a little bit. As long as you're keeping the stuff that's really specific to you, be a little bit open to other stuff, because he did some effects in Mystique, which I'm like, geez, that's beautiful, which isn't in my inks, but it did complement them, you know, as long as they're not taking away. But that was really weird for me, having worked, because I colored Old Dog myself, so it was weird to work with somebody on a longer book again.
I love the coloring in this book. The coloring is gorgeous.
Well, thanks.
This is the best you've ever been colored. It's a singular vision.
Well, I will say the best compliments I get these days is like, to Jordy color that. I'm like, no, that was me. Like, I'll take that. You know.
Did one of the best colorists in the industry color this? No, it was colored by me.
No, just this guy figuring it out as he went along. But I mean, that was a whole process as well, because I'd worked with Jordy for so long, I was completely dependent on her color wise. And we stopped working together. I was very like, am I just crap? And just have a really, really good colorist made me look good. So I think a part of coloring Old Dog myself was trying to like rebuild my confidence a little bit, and also, you know, I'd been in the same studio with her for years, and would, you know, she would like share things, like she'd notice things in films and stuff like that. So I thought a lot more about storytelling from a color point of view that I hadn't, previous to that. So it was great to finally kind of do that myself, outside of like giving a colorist some notes, so no, I actually love coloring myself. I do it any chance I get now.
Time consuming.
It is. I think I'm not too bad now, because remember, I think George is coloring at 4 pages a day. I mean, she could do more depending on the book, but I think that's standard for colorists. And I was getting 4 pages a day on Old Dog, so I felt, because I know some artists who color themselves and they'll spend, a day coloring 2 pages, and that just doesn't make, like I said, we were saying earlier on, there's a balance between artistic intent and practicality. If it was taking me 2 days to color an Old Dog page, or sorry, if I was getting 2 pages done a day, that just wasn't going to be practical. Same with Mystique. Like I could have asked Marvel if I could color Mystique, but I was writing 2 other books. Hey,
this is my little gremlin.
You have 2 of them, is it?
Yep.
But what was I saying? Like it didn't make sense to say to Marvel, I'll need a whole few more weeks to get the book done. Whereas I could just get a really good colorist. So, but
was that a little scary for you? Because suddenly you got used to, coloring your own work, and just to let that go.
Yeah, it was a bit. But like, I remember I was going to ask somebody to color Old Dog, and because I had written and drawn and colored a Hulk one shot, and I enjoyed it so much, and then I was going to go do Old Dog at Image, it kind of felt like I would have been not half-assing it, but like not fully committing to my own project after that. You know what I mean? Having done it and shown that I could color a book, and then to just ask somebody else to color like the thing I'm writing and drawing, I felt like I would have been not giving everything I could.
I absolutely love it. My only complaint is you didn't letter the book.
Oh, to hell with that. No way.
The final thing, and then it's just pure Declan Shalvey.
Well, that's good and bad. I have no interest in coloring.
Lettering.
I lettered indie books when I was starting out, which was good for me to kind of teach me how to like place lettering and stuff, or storytelling wise, consider it. And I'm like, no, I know, like lettering. I need less time I can be looking at a screen. And yet, I bought fucking Nate Picos's how to comic book lettering.
Well, it's good to know that stuff.
Yeah, but I feel like I'm just setting myself up for. I was buying it. I'm like, I actively don't want to letter, and yet I'm buying this lettering book. But actually, it's probably part of like when, because when Jodie and I stopped working together, I wanted to kind of spread my my skill set more, which was coloring and doing design. I designed one of the books I did at Image, things like that. I think I wanted to kind of. I think it's good for anybody in comics to know the other disciplines. Like if you don't want to color, that's fine, Definitely. But you should try it and see how hard it is, so the other person understands. Same with lettering. Like I lettered at the beginning, and I saw how hard it was, so I considered it as a penciler. I think everybody should give it a go.
Oh, definitely, and if only to, I think the first comic anybody ever draws, they don't leave room for the lettering.
Oh, yeah.
Or maybe the first 5 comics for some people. And but if you're lettering your first comic, then yeah, right away. And you're the letterers go through a lot in this industry trying to fit stuff on the page. So learn all these disciplines so that you don't piss them off.
Yeah, well, there's that. I was going to say just for your own craft, but no, just for a very practical reason of like not annoying everybody else. Like same with like being an artist for years has informed my writing, and writing is, well, I wouldn't say it's informed my drawing. Just as it's also it shows up like how not good I am at it, like making all these huge mistakes. But I did want to ask you. Well, yeah, I guess I was going to ask you about like your paneling and backgrounds, but like the density. But are you happy with your productivity then, if you're spending so long like fleshing these things out?
No, not at all. Actually, I'm constantly, I'm talking to Dennis every day and constantly explaining I'm falling behind. I feel so bad. I feel like I'm lazy. I'm not getting enough work done, and he's always trying to like talk me off a ledge or whatever, saying just do the best work you can possibly do. But yeah, because at the end of the day, I have 5 completed issues of Assorted.
Yeah, couldn't believe you've that many done, and they're all 40 something pages. Like,
yeah, so it's like it's 8 pages. I have to constantly remind myself that it's 8 issues worth of normal content, because the amount of time it took me to do those 5 issues is a little depressing. But no, I have to tell myself it's almost 8 issues worth of, like, that's going to be a really thick trade.
Yeah, well, also what you're not giving yourself credit for is like it's because they're all different. Well, one at the beginning, the starting a project always takes like 3 times longer than you don't, like if you did an issue in December. Yeah, if you're starting in January, it's not going to take January. It's probably going to take till March, because you're starting something new, and you're also jumping to a whole new idea in the next issue. So it's
yes,
no, you don't take
every issue is
it's like a brand new concept.
So that is tough, actually. Yeah, because you're right. Yeah, it some of these issues took me 3 months to do. So. And I don't know if you got a chance to look at issue 5, but issue 5 took especially long. That's probably the most ambitious comic I've ever drawn. It's I guess when that comes out, people will understand. But it's also, like, I think one of my favorite issues I've ever, like, the script is one of the best things Dennis has ever written.
What I will say, like, for this book to come out now is probably, I mean, you couldn't be in a better place. Like, if you did this book with Dennis 2 years ago, you know,
which is when we started talking about it first. So.
Of course, because it's so bloody ambitious, But timing wise, like, I think you're in a really like from a, again, I don't mean cynical, but like trying to think of it from a career type place. Like, Dennis is in such a good place, right? Like, he's so hot right now, like Hansel.
We agreed to this before Marvel. Like, we were working on this before Marvel came calling to him, and now he's hot shit right now.
Which is a great time to put out like a creator-owned book, especially one that looks like this is, again, it's ambitious, like, it's beautiful, like I think this has all the potential to be great, and I hope it is, because we need more creator-owned hits. Like, I'm really, it's great that, like, books like, Dennis's books and Thundercats and Ultimate Spider-Man, like those, it's great that IP stuff does well, but it can't all be that. You want like for you to have this canvas, and for Dennis's success to potentially raise its profile, I think is great. Like, it's sometimes things just don't work out time wise, but sometimes they do, and it feels like you have great potential for this to really kick off.
Yeah, I mean, I hope it's a big hit. I you never know. I know. I know the entire industry is like collectively saying, "Where's the next saga?" And this is definitely not. I'm not saying that, but like it's like every decade, like in the aughts there was Walking Dead, and in the 2010s there was Saga, and I think that's what you're getting at, is that it's nice to have the IP stuff, but like the entire industry is like actively like looking for this next big thing, because the industry needs it. It needs a big indie book. And this is not going to be that, but
it doesn't. But look, it doesn't need to be. It just needs just like ideally, it'll do well to hopefully taking chances and being more ambitious pays off. Because, like I was saying earlier on, like you could just get conservative with your ideas and your ambitions and undercut a concept or a book that could be much more interesting, just to be practical. I have those fights in my head between practicality and experimentation. I remember that's why, like, issue 5 of Old Dog, I went really nuts with that, because I remember just thinking, this is creator owned. Like, do something weird, do push it in some regard. Like, if you're just making books to be safe, then you're not pushing the readership at all. And all those books I mentioned, like, they're doing well because they're quite good, like Ultimate Spider-Man. All those books are doing really well. They're really good books. So, it's not like they're just doing well because of the IP. But a strong creator owned makes a strong work for hire, and vice versa. It puts everyone in a better position. But like
I think
I
that's
don't.
a
I'm
big
really.
conversation that's going on right now, is the big swings
Hmm.
for the big two stuff to make big swings, for creator owned to make big swings. That's what everybody's asking for right now.
Well, look at the absolute stuff. Like from what I understand,
Yeah.
it's doing huge, like massive sales for DC, and it was a
If
big
there
swing.
are
Like
people
it's
complaining online about the little things about the book, then yeah, it's because they're paying attention.
yeah,
And that's the takeaway from Absolute Batman, is there's a lot of people complaining about how big Batman is, or the logo, or this thing is stupid or that thing is stupid, and it's like, that stuff's selling
yeah, yeah, yeah.
because they're
Like
making big swings.
it's selling from what I understand, it's selling crazy, which again is great, and hopefully that'll bring people into the shops. That'll bring people to like books like Assorted Crisis Events. So I did want to ask about Heart Attack. That show's been made in Japan now. Is it out yet?
It's coming out in Japan in March, and
That's insane.
yeah, it's really cool. It's it's a Skybound book. It's the first gig I was ever hired to, and it's been turned into a TV show. It's really cool because Skybound like lets us in on everything. So we've seen they send us the episodes.
That's fantastic.
They send us the episodes before VFX has been done, and yeah, we've just seen. Yeah, I've had a chance to watch like around 8 episodes so far. It's wild. It
Yeah,
is
it looks
a whole
really
wild
nice and
experience.
stylized too. It looks like visually interesting. It's not
It's a
like
very stylish show. Yeah, very cool music. Very yeah. I don't know what to think of it. Yeah, I mean, I hope it's a big hit in Japan, but I don't know. They're shopping around the rights from what I or no that well I don't know too. I don't even know what I should be saying, but it will eventually show up in other markets outside of Japan.
it's great, man. I mean, it just like I'm not sure how much of your work you think has bled into it, but like I wasn't expecting it to be so kind of stylized, and like your work was like that in the book. So it feels like there's some of you's channeled into it somehow.
Yeah, I mean I'll say the pilot episode is like very close
Wow.
to our first issue, and then maybe it deviates a fair amount after that. It is really surreal because it's a very the comic takes place in Texas. It's a very American show. There's like a commentary about American politics, and like whereas the TV show is culturally more Japanese, and so it's interesting to see all the cultural changes they've made.
Mm.
But yeah, there is a trailer online. It might be hard to find because it's for Fuji TV, the network that's doing it. So if I think if you type in YouTube like Fuji TV Heart Attack, you might be able to see the trailer.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to mention that because it's nice when they make a show of your comic. So is there a plan for Assorted Crisis Events? Like I mean, like you said, yeah, I've seen 5 issues. Do you want to keep going with it, or do you even want to talk about that?
Oh, I mean, we want this to go on for, we would, it would be a dream if we could get like 30, 40, 50 issues out of it. Dennis has like 100 ideas on the go for
Yeah,
this. It's a very
he's never been
fertile
short on
idea.
ideas.
Yeah, and
Right?
just it is a personal human stories about in a world where time is broken. So it's just such fertile ground.
Mm.
And but the thing is, we can hope and dream for 50 issues, but people have to buy it for that to happen. That's the thing, is like I'll say that this is all back end. I haven't been paid a dime so far working on this.
How
House of
many
L
pages
basically
have you?
funded this. I'm
John
very good with
Moss.
money. I made a lot of good money. I live a very frugal life, and I saved a lot of money off. And I also have the very generous Canadian conversion rate, making American money. I guess you have a very generous conversion rate as well.
It's not, no, not Euro is not as, no, it wouldn't be as good.
Oh,
Maybe
it's
I think
actually
I'm not
on
sure actually.
par.
Is it?
I think it's on
Okay.
par. But I basically, the amount of the money I made off House of L like funded this.
Not that sweet,
Basically.
sweet time before time money. The bare
that was a big
bones.
help as well.
That was a big help. But what was it? I do have one bone to pick with you. Was when
Yeah.
you were doing you were working on Bloodshot with Dennis. You tweeted about how it's the most amazing creative experience you've had, and I was there with Rory going, "Son of a bitch!" Thanks a lot. But like, I did see the Bloodshot pages, and they did look savage. That was actually probably a good dry run for this book, I imagine.
Oh, the entire team on that one Bloodshot issue we did is the team on Assorted Crisis Events. So that's nobody read that comic. I think Valiant ran into troubles around then, and I remember like the week it was supposed to come out, I went to the comic shop and it wasn't there, and it eventually came out. So I don't know what happened there, but I think nobody read it because of all the issues there. But I don't know if you're interested in Assorted Crisis Events. Check out Bloodshot Unleashed #4, because that's that's the entire creative team working for the first time, and it's actually it's an amazing issue in my opinion. The script that Dennis wrote just is just so heartfelt and beautiful.
Yeah, no, I'd also like, as we're talking about like creator owned stuff, like it's great. It's great when you're getting paid to work with people in experiments. Like, I know you probably would have done something. You would have done this with Dennis anyway because of like your relationship. But it's nice to have like a dry run that was paid for by a company to see if it works. Yeah. But
yeah, I mean, it's nothing beats making comics with your friends. Like, yeah, it's I'm having so much fun working with Dennis. I had fun working with you and Rory as well. You guys.
No, I can't do it. Don't take it back now.
No, I actually really loved those scripts. There was a lot of like match cuts in. I don't know if you have like issue 15 up or whatever, but there was a lot of match cuts which were just so fun, where it's just like a healthy Tatsuo and then smash cut to sick Tatsuo.
Oh yeah.
And then there was and this sequence, I love these pages so much. Well, and there's a lot I would change, but Kevin, the character of Kevin, is just so fun to draw. I actually modeled Kevin as in 3D.
Really?
And I never sent it to you. Did I?
No.
I remember thinking I should send this so that he could share it with the rest of the creative, like the next several artists. And comics are so busy, I never got around to it. Damn, yeah, because Kevin is consistently modeled here, and it took me 15 minutes to.
You wouldn't think it like because there's like, that's what I did like about different artists drawing Kevin, was to be like, because Jorge Coelho's like was boxier, and I think whenever I was drawing him, I looked at yours because there's a nice balance between like blockiness and character. But yeah, like I'm just looking at all the color things you've selected, color holes. There you go. Look at that page.
I went wild with this.
You did. You did not need to go that far into it, especially for what we were paying you, But
I felt unleashed after getting out of House of L. I felt like now I can, because I'm not very happy with my work on House of L because it was just so rushed. And so I think this was like, now I can show what, I can redeem myself, and everybody can see what I can actually do.
This probably wasn't a montage page, I'm guessing, because I don't think we wrote any. Did you ask to make this a montage, maybe?
I don't know if it was explicitly said to be a montage, but I think it was just sort of like, a lot of experiments are being done.
Okay. Well, I mean, look, I'm glad you felt unleashed on this, because like that's definitely what I wanted you to have the freedom to do whatever you wanted. I knew you loved doing backgrounds, so I made sure we had backgrounds in there for you. And like, what was it we were showing? What was the page? I'm bastard there. Yeah, I remember when you handed this splash page in, I think I was talking to Rory going, Jesus Christ, it's unbelievable, man. Like,
yeah, I look at that and go, what? Why did I do so much work?
No, we were high-fiving
Oh yeah.
And there was a really nice element of the coming back to somebody who we talked to originally, like working with you, because we'd worked with you when we were coming up with the idea to come back with you and get to work together again. It felt really oh, there you go. Is that what you mean? The cuts between that two getting sicker and sicker.
Yeah, these were fun. Oh, and I mean, talking about backgrounds, it was, he draw like 6 different hospitals from 6 different timelines.
Yeah.
I do feel like I didn't get weird there was one I got super weird with, maybe on the next page. Because I kept feeling like these aren't weird enough. Like we're like 3,000 years in the future, and like so. Yeah, I put a really like I can't even explain the one in the middle there, and that's the point. Like, what is going on there?
But no, I would love to work with you, man. Like, if Dennis ever messes you around, be right there, looking over your shoulder.
Yeah, I mean, this series was a lot of fun. I love these 3 characters.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah, these 3 characters were a lot of fun to work with. Just
it was
the different acting that they brought to the table, and great character designs too.
We included Kevin because we knew Joe wanted to draw a robot, but so we had an arc. But then Joe wanted to do his own book afterwards. And we were like, we just came up with this character for somebody fun for Joe to draw, and ended up being like I can't say I wrote too much of Kevin because Rory was just all over it. Like I could clearly see he loved writing Kevin so much. I was like, I'm gonna leave him alone. Like, don't want to be stepping on his creative toes there. But no, I loved working at. Sorry, this should be more about Assorted Crisis Events. But no,
I brought it back to this.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I can blame you. But and getting to go as far as 29 issues, we were delighted with because crazy. We didn't know we'd get past 5 when 1 came out. We weren't sure still if we would be able to get past issue 5, and to get to 29.
How many Image books launch every month, and how many get past 5?
Yeah,
like, not many.
Not a lot. Yeah, I mean, we were lucky. We did. I mean, there's a little inside baseball, but we didn't take any money from Image. So really, it was up to us, me and Rory, to kind of finance it. But we also did a kind of a Kickstarter for this kind of process behind the scenes making of the book, and we took that money to kind of help pay for the book as well. So by the time the book was ending, we were like, I would say, kind of out of money. Basically, the book wasn't making profit anymore, but we got it to where we wanted to wrap it up. Like, if the book was doing great, like really, really great, like Saga, there was so much more you could do. But any less, I think we would have felt like we didn't get to go as far as we wanted. But the 5 books, and like we did a 6th one with the one shots. I'm delighted with that. Like, I can't believe we got that far.
And I'd imagine like they go back to print every so often. So
no, I mean, like, to put it down, but not really. Like, the book does fine, but it's not like, it's not what I would have hoped for in regards of you hear when books go to trade, like they kind of it pays itself. But I wouldn't say we don't really make crazy money, Like, we get asked a lot if we do like collections, but there's no point of doing a collection until the actual trade sell, because then you're spending more money at the cost of not making money back on the stuff that's already printed. Like you'll see.
There's all these calculations with Image books, but occasionally you see an Image book launch as a hardcover first, and those are on the big hits though, I think.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, say, Brubaker and Phillips can do an 80-page hardcover book because they have a built-in readership that will just buy that. I mean, I'm part of that readership,
Yeah.
I don't care.
I think I saw like 8 Billion Genies was a big hit last year, and that went straight to hardcover first.
Did it?
I believe so. Yeah. So
okay.
Yeah, if you're a giant hit, like I always remember Little Bird came out, and
that's right. Yeah.
It went to hardcover straight away.
I mean, so, I guess you can do that. I mean, it was different with Time Before Time because we didn't know how far we would go. but
It just
I
hits
think with
hits the finances quite a bit. Like it's
big time, yeah, because it's very expensive to make. But like also, if we made a hardcover now, then no one's going to buy the trades, and that's cost us money already. So, what you want is you want those to sell through, and then if they all sell, then you can justify the expense of going, because then you go back in the red. It's so expensive to make a hardcover, like it takes a long time to make that back. So there's all these like
and it's tough because there's some people out there who only buy hardcovers. So you see a lot of comments of like, well, I'll read it if you get a hardcover. It's like,
but
there's
I
not
don't
enough
think
of you.
but I don't think there's enough of them to warrant making it. Like there might be like 300 people who will do it, but you need to sell like 700 in order for it to cover costs. Like it's all the minutia of how to make money off creator and stuff gets very like generally the question I've discovered when somebody, a fan or whatever, asks, why don't X, Y, and Z, why don't you do X, Y, and Z? Generally the answer is money. It's like, because it's not cost effective to do it. But anyway, I mean, I'd be curious to see what you guys like. If the book is a smash hit, then why not do hardcovers? It's a tough one, but I think what definitely helps is if it sells very well, you're in a better position to make those kind of calls.
Or if you get like mega bucks Hollywood money straight off the bat.
That's it. Like I think I guess I can say it now. Yeah, fuck it. Yeah, because we got optioned pretty much as the book came out, and we were like, nice one. Like we can announce this and that'll help the sales, but the whole part of the deal was we couldn't say anything. So, and then that ended up lapsing. Or re-signed, and that was great. But the whole time we were working on the book, we were like, when this comes out, this will do great for the book. But then then the option ran out again. So the whole time we were just thinking this could really help sales. But in the meantime, that didn't happen. So we have the book, so that's the most important thing, But all of those things are factors.
There's an indie book that I did like 12 years ago or so that you can't find anywhere, and I've practically forgotten about it. Nobody has read this thing, but it was optioned like maybe 6 years ago, and they just like keep renewing every year and a half. And
that's great.
Yeah, it's funny how that works. That like,
no, I mean that's
these
ideal,
places don't want to let go of it because if it does get made by another company, then yeah.
I think look, there's the whole side of like comic media and whatnot. Like I mean, it's not our world. It's a whole other thing. But like if you're in a position where you're just getting paid for an option, that's great because you're still making money like off the book that you put so much work into. It's not the page rate. It's like something that keeps helping. So it's a great position to be in. Here's some more of it. But man, I've had you over an hour now. I don't want to ruin your whole day, but
my day's been ruined, Dak.
Exactly. Yeah. I've taken a whole hour. But is there anything else about the book you want to talk about, like, or share, or because you haven't done any interviews for it yet, have you?
No, this would be the first one.
So it's
probably the only one. I'm not a big fan of interviews, but I mean, this was fun because this was just a regular conversation with a peer, I guess. But yeah, I was very nervous.
Peer, I think I'm probably a bit bigger. No, I'm just kidding.
A bit bigger. You're quite a bit bigger.
I'm not as nice as we first met.
Maybe if Assorted Crisis Events hits, then I'll be bigger than you. That's like my dream, to be bigger than Dak.
I'll come crawling back to you. So it's so there'll be a link to the website in the description. It's a new ongoing, it's at least 5 issues. Like, I couldn't believe you.
I'm working on issue 6 right now. So, I mean, we're trying to manifest success. Like, we're hoping at least 9 to 10 issues. Even if it doesn't sell very well, you will at least get 9 to 10 issues. Because I mean, I'm just having so much fun working on it. It would be really nice if it sold well, though.
The FOC.
It comes out in March, mid-March, I think.
And the FOC is in 2. It's this podcast will probably be out next week. So it's February. Do you say February?
Oh, actually, I think it's February 17th.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I think there's a bit more time. It's really good. It's a really good
I
issue.
mean,
So
it is really good. I read the first two. I didn't get past that just because I'm a bit swamped. But I was really, really, really impressed. I would have read it anyway because I'm a fan of Dennis's stuff and I'm a fan of your stuff. Um, Geordie too. Not so much Haas, but no, just kidding. But it's. I think it's one. I think it's one of the more original, exciting, interesting books I've read in a good while, and I've read some good stuff. So it's. I think there's nothing else out like it out there. Everybody should give it a shot. Um, uh, I don't know what the price point is, but yeah, like it's a chunk of pages. You have so much in the can, so it's going to be on time. So I really hope everybody gets behind it. But yeah, if you click through to the website and the description, and I'm sure you'll have all the details where the like the web. You have a really
but
nice website to help push it and everything. It's great.
yeah, also I want people to buy this. Like because this is some of the best comics, some of the best indie comics you can get. This is a singular vision, so buy this as well. And I don't know, the people want more Old Dog. So
well,
what's the deal there?
I'm about to start on the next one. I know I've said it anywhere, but I decided I'm going to do them as novellas going forward. So like, 3 48-page books, and then collect them as the next trade. Just because doing them as monthlies, I mean, I'm not saying this will be your case. This is like where the market was 2 years ago, I guess, as the issues were coming out. But the sales went down every issue, to the point where it would have become unprofitable by the second arc. So I tried doing as an experiment. I did, which again is cool. Creator stuff, you can do this stuff. Doing an anthology. I did that. That came out this year or last year, as a way of kind of because I knew because I knew I'd be doing Mystique for the bulk of the year, and I didn't want the book to just kind of disappear. Also, I wanted to, I love the Hellboy anthologies and Grendel, and like when somebody takes their character and has other people have fun with it. That was I love that stuff. So again, you can do that with Creator Owned. But yeah, going forward, I think I talked to some friends, and I guess some criticisms some friends had was that the page count on the issues was there wasn't enough really. So I think I'm going to try and go a bit bigger with the issues, but as a result, I just it's just not going to be monthly. I can't, like, I'm writing so much other stuff. I just can't do a monthly book like that, with everything else going on. So what I'm going to try to do is like release, an annual or special every year, and then collect them in the long run. If that makes sense.
And that's really cool because, as I was saying earlier, you got to be different than the Spider books and the Bat books, and that is a way of being different.
Like, you have so much issues banked, I think you can do it. But in general, I think you need to be doing an image book where there's a writer and an artist and a colorist, and that machine, like Time Before Time, that was a machine we built, and it was a lot of work. But if that machine doesn't work, then the sales will wobble. And our sales went down every issue, but the weird thing is we kind of hit a balance right at the very end. But unless, like, a saga was a success because it was out every month, or with a gap month and then the trade, like you need reliability. I think that's the thing that keeps sales. And
that was the secret success of The Walking Dead. It came out every month.
It was just out. It was out every month. Everyone goes, so we need a new Walking Dead or whatnot. But yes, we do. But a book like that can't succeed unless there's a machine that's that's why Amazing Spider-Man does well. That's why all those big books do well, because they come out every month. And it's harder to do that in an image book, especially when, like, in your case, you're working for money you've got saved. You don't have a regular, income coming in. There's all these spanners in the works when you're doing creator owned that are hurled at you. And some books can totally dodge them, but then some get clanged right in the head, and it messes with the reliability. So, I'm never going to be able to write and draw a book and color a book that comes out every month.
Like every 4 weeks.
Yeah, it's just not going to happen, because I've slowed down over time too. I'm trying. I
Yeah.
got a bit slower, and I feel like I raised my skill set more, which is great. But that's not productive in the same way. So I figured what I can do then is maybe if I can do a novella every year, um, I keep the book going and I can build it towards an ultimate trade. And, it's more of an event when it happens, quote unquote, an event, rather than um, just kind of pumping them out every month for 6 months until I nearly die. Like that 6 issue came out. I was in bits. I was absolutely in bits. So I just can't keep that up.
I don't know how you produce the amount of work you produce. I don't know how you do it.
I don't
Because
either.
from my perspective, it looks like you do a lot.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm not married, I don't have anyone else to worry about, so I can just sit here and work all the time. And, and some of it's opportunities too, like, I was writing Terminator this year, and, there's no way I could do anything more than writing 3 books and drawing one of them. That's just, it's not maintained. It's not something you can maintain, but I finished on Mystique now. So, um, I'm going to, I'm writing and doing covers at the moment, and next month I'm going to get back on Old Dog and do, like, I don't know what to call them, annuals or novellas, or whatever sounds the most pretentious. I'm going to have to go
It's
with.
funny because I was referring to, I've been kind of saying that each issue of Assorted Crisis Events is almost like a graphic novella.
Well, it
So
is. It's the page count.
that
Yeah.
well. It's
But what I'm going to do what you're doing, except call it a novella and make it seem like
yeah. Rather than issue 2 and 3.
Yeah, I'm
and
working
then,
really hard. Not like that Eric Zawadzki guy, whatever. But I think that's the only way I can maintain releasing the book consistently is in slower release but more page count. Because there's also other stuff I want to do too. I've had like this kind of Western idea I want to do like for years, and when am I gonna? I'm going to find the time to write and draw that. I want to draw it too, and there's only so much I can draw. Like I'm in an amazing place where everything I want to do, the only reason I can't do it is because time, boo hoo.
So is the rest of your year pretty much locked up?
No, actually, it's not locked up at all. I'm going to do Old Dog next, but I'm talking to Marvel and DC about 2 different potential things, and I'll see
Very cool.
what. Because I mean, if I'm being honest, like I went all in on Old Dog, didn't pay off. Not creatively. Creatively, absolutely, and I'm delighted with it. But it didn't pay off commercially the way I was hoping it would. Now, it'll never be as much as you want it to be. No matter what the sales are,
Yeah.
even if they're good, you'd be like, oh, it could have been more. But I decided to go all in on it, and it's done okay, but like not so much where I can just quit everything. And I don't want to give up on it. I want to keep building on it, but I'm lucky that I can do mainstream stuff and I can do creator own stuff. So I think another reason to do the novella approach is that I can balance that around projects easier than say 130 pages, which is what the first trade is. So I think I'm gonna do an Old Dog, do a work for hire, do an Old Dog, do a work for hire. That's my rough plan. I just don't know what the work for hire thing is yet.
And yeah, in Hollywood they say one for them, one for me. That's
it's kind of
pretty
where I'm
much.
at. Like yeah. Like I have another creator owned I want to write, but I'm writing two books at the moment. So I think when I finish Terminator, I'll try and like I'll still have Thundercats, so I think I might try get more back into creator owned. Because I kind of went all in on creator owned with Old Dog and Time Before Time at the same time. I was sorry if I'm babbling now, but I was writing Alien, and that felt like the side gig was a Marvel book, which is that's so weird.
That is strange.
Like that was mad, but so I've kind of gone more back into creator owned, work for hire the last year, but I don't want to sacrifice one or the other,
And it looks like you're having a lot of fun on that Mystique book.
Yeah, it's great. I really, really enjoyed it. It's basically Old Dog, like, but with like a shapeshifter, you know.
Where you can draw
And
any X-Men character you want.
yeah, yeah. There's a bit like in the last issue, she's kind of running around across the rooftops. I'm like, make it Beast, you know, or she's lifting somebody up. I'm like, make it Colossus. Like that was like getting to do Old Dog, but like add in all this like X-Men cameos. So no, I really enjoyed that, and I think it's put me in a better place where the stuff I'm getting offered is to like take a thing and make it yours. Which, I mean, when we met, that's not where my career was at all, and I couldn't have imagined that would be the case. But
That's
but
like
it's definitely
that's what every creator dreams of, getting into a
yeah.
position like that.
Even the transform sorry not Transformers the Terminator stuff. You know, I can you know uh, found like an Italian artist whose stuff I really liked, and he's just did the latest issue. Like I can hire people who could do the first shot while also developing like an IP for like a better phrase, like what's your take. That's never been something that's come my way before, and that's kind of everything I'm doing right now, which is class. But but I don't want that at the detriment of more creator owned stuff, and I want to do more Old Dog, but I also don't want to just do Old Dog. So yeah, I'm
It's
in
a
a bit of
little
a
too
bind.
easy to just do nothing but say yes and just keep
Yeah,
moving forward, and that could be a problem.
and also like with something like Thundercats, that wasn't supposed to go on longer than like 12 issues. Um, but what it's turned into is something that's also it's not something I expected, and a creative
That
challenge
is
to do
wild.
something.
What happened with that? Just
It's
wild.
insane. And I thought it would sell like regular licensed numbers, and but like it just did. Like we're doing a spin off. like um like the Thundercats Lost book was something I pitched to Nate, and now that's coming out next month. Yeah, or no, March I
I
think it
didn't
is.
grow up with Thundercats, so it's and I feel like I'm getting pretty old. So I look at Thundercats and I just wonder like who's buying. Like, what is I want to know what the average age range are like 30-year-olds buying this or 20-year-olds buying this.
Well, I would say it's more people my age from conventions. That's what I'm seeing. It's more people my age, but also like what's been really cool is some younger like guys and girls are coming up, going, "Oh, I've heard of this, but I didn't know what it was. Like I haven't watched the cartoon, so I'll just give this a try," which is great. Um,
Yeah.
that's like my plan was Old Dog Anthology and Mystique for last year. That was it, and I ended up like Thundercats becoming this big ongoing, and then the Terminator thing too, which is like I really really like writing that. But that'll wrap up in the next couple of months. Thundercats will go another year, but I definitely want like a primary project to work on, like Mystique again. So I'll do Old Dog, and I hope while I work on that, see what kind of peters out afterwards. Like that Western I want to do. I've had I think 5 years I've had that idea. It would be like an Irish crime thing again, which I haven't done in a while. Um, but there's only so many hours in the day too, you know.
Yeah.
Like yeah, with the creator space, I feel bad because like there's more stuff I want to do, but I also like people who've invested in Old Dog. I don't want to just leave that alone either. So, I don't know what should I tell you to do, Eric.
Especially, I'd imagine you have like 100 ideas for Old Dog, right?
Yes and no. Like I've lots of stuff that's kind of in the ether, but the main thing was to get to the first story point at the end. Like the there's a thing at the end which kind of changes the story. Um, and opened up everything else. So my main thing was just get to that moment. So I need to sit down and plan like what the shape of the rest of it's going to be. Um, I think maybe 3 trades is probably the best. Um, I'm not sure
So
how.
you do have an end in mind.
Oh, I definitely have an end. I know I've always known what the ending is. It's just getting there is the question mark. How long is the journey going to be? And you know, I yeah, I find when I'm writing, it's kind of I'll always know the end point, but I try not to outline everything the whole way because I feel like by the time I'm writing it, then I'm trapped into I'm trying like I feel bad. I'm looking at the Terminator solicits, and they're so different to what the issue actually is. Because I had a rough outline, but as I'm writing it, it changed into something else that's more interesting. And I'm looking at some of the solicits, I'm like, yeah, it's nothing like what happens at all.
I mean, that goes towards your drawing process as well, where you don't want to get locked in. You don't want to get too, what you were saying, too tight with the layouts. So you get locked in and you're redrawing.
I like to have it like pretty much nailed down, but I like to have a good like 10 to 20% where you can kind of just turn things on a swivel. Like say when I drew Beast into Mystique, like that wasn't in the outline. You know, the outline was the issue, but then as I was writing it, I'm like, oh, that would be cool. You know, I need to have a little bit of room to throw that stuff in. So that's why Old Dog, I don't have like I don't have it all outlined for the rest. I just know the main storyline and the ending. And my main issue has been like, how do I get there? Do I get it through, you know, another 6-issue mini? Because for me, the format is an issue too. Like, is it going to be 6 issues? Is it going to be 4? Is it going to be a novella? Is it going to be graphic novel? Like, so I changing the format of the book will change the storytelling to some degree. But again, I wouldn't wrap it up in the next arc. I think I'd like to get to a third one. But now that I'm going to kind of basically do them in 3 arcs rather than 6, say, that will change the focus. Sorry, I'm blabbing here at this stage. I haven't really. I have a meeting with Heather soon to work it out, and I end up workshopping it in public with you right now.
I mean, did you anticipate even announcing this before I brought it up? Did I drag this out of you on a live show?
Yeah, maybe. Well, that's my problem is I just talk out loud. I think I probably mentioned the newsletter.
Okay,
but it's not like an announcement or anything, you know. I do kind of agonize over this stuff. Like, I mean, curious, as somebody who bought the book, like, will that piss you off to read it in? You know, I mean, you didn't get the issues, did you? You got the trade.
Yeah.
So a year or two.
For me, it's tough because I don't remember everything I've read. I sometimes I have to go back and reread it, which I love individual issues, and for the longest time I love the artifact of it. I love how it lays flat, and so like the double page spreads are perfect. But
yeah,
you know, I can't remember what I read last month. So
I deliberately wrote it to be like action packed, done in one single issues.
Yeah,
because I felt like we needed more of those books, and retailers needed more of those books, but you know, it just didn't reflect in the sales. You know, I didn't feel like that effort was. Don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to sound like a dick or anything, but like it wasn't rewarded. It wasn't rewarded in the sales. You know what I mean? You know, so you know, what's the point of you know, going to spending more efforts doing the same thing that's probably not really going to, you know, once that first 6 issues are out, that's kind of really it. So I figured if I could just make a format where I can keep going at it, I can keep slowly building that while working on other things was probably the best way to do it. And hopefully every time I do one, it'll be more of there's a new Old Dog rather than, you know, the book that's on the stands that isn't catching fire.
Well, and there's a conversation to be had about, which it isn't 100%, but like there's a sort of more of a collector mindset with the issues, and then there's definitely a reader mindset with the trades. And obviously, you know, that's not 100% consistent. But if you're gearing more towards a trade audience, it's more of a reader audience. And I guess now I'm babbling. I don't know what I'm getting at, but it seems like the one and done that you're going with, I guess, is probably more geared towards the trade audience. But then again, we're doing ASSORTED CRISIS events, and every issue is one and done as well. So I don't know what the hell I'm saying.
Yeah, well, I mean, but I think you're like Old Dog is light, like it's action, it's you know, fairly minimal dialogue. It's more, you know, it's visual. It's you know, and I compress and decompress, but I think if I did have a larger page count, it would really let me open things up. I'd be able to, because you know the hard thing with doing done at ones is you have to set it up, you have to tell your story and wrap it up. and in 20 pages,
Yeah.
it's hard to do. I'm having a really hard time with Terminator. Now, it's more because a lot of it's historically specific. Like I'm writing the Vietnam story, I'm like, once you're writing, I've done loads of research, and I'm writing it, I'm like, I don't know half of this shit. Like how do just like how do soldiers talk to each other? You know, what rank is this character? I'm like, you think you have it all in your head, but then once you're actually writing it, and the done in ones mean you have to do all that research for every issue. Now, Old Dog's different because it's all out of my head, admittedly, but like I have a note on my phone with every thought, title, idea in there, and I've been adding to it for like 5 years. So what I need to do next is sit down and actually go through it all and figure out like an actual plan for the next chunk of it. But whereas what you're doing at the sort of crisis events, like it's well, I think the page count helps because you're able to do a lot more with it because you're basically selling a whole new idea every month. I'm telling a new story, but you're doing concepts, which is far more ambitious. So I think that'll go down far better than what I was doing. And also the market's changed too, in those years. So it's really hard to like I said, I try and be practical, but ambitious. And
I think you launched the book in probably not the most ideal year, which who could have predicted, I guess. Like
yeah. And don't get me wrong, like it's not like terrible, like sales are awful. It's just maybe I'd all these friends telling timing is huge. Timing is massive. Yeah. That's why I think like you're like even those books, Saga, everyone forgets like that came off huge controversy with the cover. If you remember, there was a on the cover
breastfeeding, I think.
Yeah, like, and I'm not saying controversy is what made that book a success, but I don't think it hurt it.
Well, there's a lot of things that contributed to that success. Like Brian K. Vaughan was out of comics for like 3-4 years, so it was like his big triumphant return. And then just 2012, all these Marvel creators were descending into creator owned, and that was
in a different place,
perfect timing with that. And with Assorted Crisis Events, like when we started it, I envisioned like it would be like probably summer last year, which would not have been good timing.
Yeah,
so but it's just sort of working out this way.
Yeah, I mean, I talked to a lot of guys who are like launching creator on stuff, and it's tough market right now. But like, there's such unique momentum off like Dennis right now that, I mean, from his point of view, I would say it's great to have a creator own thing to come out now. From your point of view, it's great that all the work you've done. all the page, like you've done well over 100 pages, probably nearly 200 pages at the stage.
Coming up on it.
Like so to put all that work in for it to come out now is potentially great timing. And like if I was going to advise
Absolute Martian, he's got Absolute Martian Manhunter coming out in March as well. So that's just like go to the store, grab the new Absolute book written by Dennis, and get his creator-owned book as well.
Yeah, but like you couldn't have timed that. Like,
no.
Like you could time it to a degree maybe recently, but not when you were starting. Like, that was like whatever 2 years ago.
I was so choked when it wasn't coming out at the end of last year. I was so choked, and now I'm like, oh, thank God it didn't come out late last year.
No, so that's like, there's no accounting for the zeitgeist. Timing is huge, but also like, we need to be putting out books. Like you could say like, oh, it's not a good time for the market right now, which fair enough. But unless people are making new books, there's no books for people to get behind. You have to be making this stuff in order for people to like, for any success to happen, you have to be making the work. And
you have to focus on the work and not put too much time into, is this the right time? Is it just, it's going to happen or it's not. It's just sort of just focus on creating a good product.
Yeah, I would say I probably, my not problem with Old Dog, but like I had a lot of friends who told me, man, you're writing and drawing it's going to do huge. And it did. Like it did the same as Time Before Time, which did well. So I'm not down on it or anything, but I thought because I was writing and drawing, it would do better than that, but it did the same. And again, Time Before Time did better than I thought it would. So it's still good.
Yeah.
But I think my expectations have been, but also the market had changed in the 2 years between those books launched too. So it's a hard one. You've got to try and manage your expectations. But at this stage now, I'm trying to manage like the practicalities of like how do I keep bringing the work out. I also love Marvel and DC stuff too, so I want to do that too. So this for me is the best way I think to keep making the book. It'll just take a little bit longer for the whole thing to come out. And I'm also very lucky that like if this Marvel or DC thing doesn't pan out in the next couple of months, I can just do more Old Dog. Like I have the backup of always being able to just tell my own, or not Old Dog, something else.
Good position to be in. Yeah.
It's an amazing position to be in. So I'm sorry if I just seem like I'm just moaning there for the last while, but I do. I agonize over making the best choices within the brilliant options that I have. Like I've told this story before, but I knew Sean Murphy better years ago, and he had the option of picking Joe the Barbarian with Grant Morrison, and I think there was a Punisher book at Marvel, and I'm a big Punisher guy, so I'm like, oh man, you got to do the Punisher book, and he's like, oh, I don't know, maybe a book with Grant Morrison, and I to his face went, between those two books, you gobshite, because I was like doing 28 Days Later. I would have killed for those opportunities. But now I sympathize more because you have these two brilliant options. What way will your career go if you do one or the other? And it's a complete first world problem. I completely accept that.
And I thought about that when I walked away from Time Before Time. I was like, oh, what if I'm walking away from something that's going to be in the zeitgeist, and it'll become a TV show that'll go on for 7 seasons, and then trade sales will go through the roof. And like, these are things you cannot help but think about.
You can only like account for like this much, sorry, I'm not explaining myself properly. There's a level of decisions you have control over, but the space between those decisions can go anywhere. It's a tough one.
Yeah, and sometimes like the no-brainer answer is not it was a no-brainer for me to do a trilogy over at DC. But that could have been, something that I regretted until my dying days, because, like, not to get too inside, but, there are people that before the Netflix deal turned down Mark Miller, I'm sure. And, after the fact, you realize you turned down $1 million.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure I'm sure this guy's kicking themselves, same way you're kicking yourself over not doing Time Before Time, I'm sure. But even
I eventually got to do it though, which I really appreciate.
True. Exactly. So it all worked out. But I'm sure like doing the DC books, like, the amount of work you would have had to do those, I'm sure you came out the other side of it a way more developed artist, because you wouldn't have had to do anything regular like that. Like I know, like say Eternal was amazing and the Dregs, but like you were starting out then, having to do a book, pages every week. I do think that really makes or breaks a creator in the long run, because it's very easy to be indulgent and not productive, but having to get pages done regularly on deadline, I really think like it's the boot camp that every artist needs to have a long career.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, it's I'm not happy looking at the work, but I'm glad I learned a lot. On it. I came out of it a better artist.
Yeah, and I remember at that decision, I remember you were at the time, like, I really want to do this, but like, I can't really say no. And you were right. Like, I mean, I'm sure like I said, you wouldn't be able to do Assorted Crisis Events without having done that book. One decision begets the other.
Yeah, exactly. And like my heart is in creator-owned books. So actually it, if money was no consideration, yeah, I know exactly which I would have chosen, and it wouldn't have been the big, but no, I mean, all of it's good. You're drawing for a living is, nothing to sneeze at. So like every opportunity is great. So.
So the commentator, Gary Maloney, I'm sure you mentioned it earlier, but I think Eternal is an incredible book and deserves far more credit than it got at the time of the release. I did just mention it, but I meant to mention it earlier, because I think that's I think that's the first time I saw your stuff, and I thought it was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, actually, the whole thing there was so much failure prior to Eternal that I basically said, screw this, I'm going to go all out. And sort of, I fell in love with the script, but then I decided to put my stamp on it and rewrite every parts of it and add more to it, which is, as an example of what before time, where I was saying, no, I need this to be a double page spread, and can we change the ethnicity of the character, and all these decisions. I got to a point where I was like more wanting to put my stamp on it, and I think that's part of it. But no, it didn't sell very well. I think I think there are piles and piles of it in a warehouse somewhere. So,
but I mean that's fine. But if you hadn't done that, I don't think I would have. No, it's not I wouldn't have seen your work, but you put such a stamp on that book. It was so you, and it showcased all your skills. Like, especially when you're starting out, like, I got to do that on Moon Knight, and I was at Marvel like 4 years at that stage, But like, I think you made that like artistic statement of intent right up front, and I think it was the best showcase you could ever give yourself. It's definitely what made me go, holy crap, this guy's amazing. And so, okay, maybe it didn't sell, but like, it's probably done you. I'm sure I'm not the only one that looked at that and went, holy crap, this is class.
Well, that's how I got the House of L gig, was from Eternal.
There you go. Like, just like making, always sounds try what people ask, like, how do you make it in comics? And I'm just like, you got to make something. No one can just look at your face and go, yeah, sure, he can do it. Like, you have to kind of showboat up front. Otherwise, nobody knows what your point of view or your skill set is. And for the record, with the changing the ethnicity of Tetsuo and Time for Time, I was dead set against. I'm like, everyone has to be white. I'm just kidding.
And I have the emails to prove. No.
Exactly.
I could get you canceled with the stroke of my.
I just think the races should be separated.
Oh no! Somebody clip that.
Case in point, all that stuff like I'm not coming from things as an artist. I know that like if you just even like working with Geordie years ago, like if you're not shutting down someone's ideas, they're going to feel way more invested. So like unless it's something that's really completely against your vision or whatever. Like,
does the book have to be about time travel?
It's like,
I love the script, but
yeah, can we get rid of the time travel element? But I know about you. Like, I prefer not to do something like I wouldn't say yes to something that's interested in doing it. And if I can like add something, well, this is from an artist point of view now because like things are a little bit different for me, which is great. But at the time, there's no point doing something if you're not interested at all. If you want to change what it is, then just don't do the thing in the first place. But I do think from a writer point of view, I do think it's important to. I don't mean let the artist feel like they're involved, like as in, yeah, sure, buddy, and pat them on the head. But give them place to, like I said, with that double page spread, like that was doable, and like look, it looks so good. You shouldn't cut good ideas down because you're only hurting yourself in the long run. Let that be good advice to Dennis. But look, it's nearly 2 hours. I'm shut this down.
This was a lot of fun.
But, yeah, like this is why I do it. I don't know if anyone even watches these, but I'm having a good time. Congrats on the book, man. I really mean it. It's reading something like that makes me want to go like, God damn, I need to get something made, which I think is the best test of any creator-owned thing. So I'm delighted for you. I'm delighted you and Dennis finally got to do something like this. Please do something with me in the future because I love your work. I'm selfish, but no, I hope this book smashes, man. And if there's anything I can do to help, please let me know.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'll keep that in mind. Yeah. I really appreciate all the support. Yeah.
All right, sure. I'll leave you off. Thanks to everybody who watched, and thanks to Dennis for watching at least. But yeah, thanks a million, guys. I'll do another one of these as soon as I can think of somebody to, because I wasn't planning on doing these again. But when you and I talked, I should totally just do another tape deck. So now I'm going to have to follow it up with somebody else once I think of somebody. So thanks a million, man.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, catch you later.